this anecdote because it serves as an origin story of this book. Had the USHMM not chosen to acquire the archive, the songs and documents that Aleksander Kulisiewicz spent his life collecting might very well have been lost, and with it, any chance of telling the complete stories of Kulisiewicz, Rosebery Darguto, and the Jewish choir of Sachsenhausen. This anecdote also helps me answer an important question. How did I approach the sourcing, research, and verification of this book? I wrote Sing Memory thanks to several important categories of sources, including the memoirs of camp survivors, oral history and testimony, scholarly books and articles, and information from the descendants of the characters. Yet, above all, this was an archival project in which I relied on thousands of pages of documents to piece together the complex and powerful narrative of Kulisiewicz and Darguto, their lives, and the time they spent in the Sachsenhausen concentration camp. Though I consulted various archives around Europe, the United States, and Israel, two collections were most important. The first was what is now known as the Aleksander Kulisiewicz collection at the United States Holocaust Memorial Museum. This archive contains the voices of hundreds of camp survivors and the music and poetry they created. At the core, Aleksander Kulisiewicz was a gatherer, an accumulator of anything related to music making in the Nazi camps. Over more than 3 decades, he collected microfilms, correspondence, personal narratives, newspaper clippings, artwork, poetry, research notes, manuscripts, and photographs. He made copies of camp diaries, musical scores, drawings, and maps. It is these documents that make up the foundation of this book. The other archive I relied on heavily was the Sammlung Rosebery Darguto at the Akademie der Künste, Berlin. The Rosebery Darguto Collection, Academy of Arts, Berlin, assembled in large part by the pioneering German musicologist Inge Lammel. Over many years, Lammel tracked down friends, colleagues, and choir members of Rosebery Darguto and interviewed them in great detail. The result is hundreds of pages of information, photographs, scores, and programs that paint a rich picture of Darguto and his accomplishments, particularly during his years in Berlin and his imprisonment in Sachsenhausen. I am far from the first person to study these archives. Over the last 3 decades, scholars and archivists such as Barbara Milewski, Brett Verb, Peter Konopacz, Guido Fackler, and Juliana Brauer, among many others, have examined these collections and meticulously scrutinized the stories they tell for accuracy. The result is a trove of scholarly material about music in the Nazi camps broadly, and Kulisiewicz and Darguto in particular, that was crucial for me during my research. Thanks to these archives, the descendants of the characters in the book, and scholarship, I have been able to write Sing Memory as a work of nonfiction. Each detail, anecdote, and scene comes from primary sources. The same applies to any instance of dialogue in the book or places where I include the thoughts of a character. Based on guidance and recommendations from scholars of the Nazi camps, I approached survivor memoirs and testimony from a perspective of trust and respect. Yet, no camp survivor, Kulisiewicz included, can offer a perfect account of incarceration and trauma at the hands of the Nazis. I have thus buttressed